sharper than a razor, eyes made of lasers, bolder than the truth. They won't be locked up in the system, 'cause I'm on a mission. Blame it on my youth. Too long I've been out here on my own. Now I'm about to bring it home like a rolling stone. I ain't never been afraid to die. Look a man in the eye. I come to give you what you love. It's time to give you what you love. I'ma give you what you love. Give you what you love. I am sharper than a switchblade, first and last of one God made, and that's the truth. But man, keep on trying to hold me back while another chicken head.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to The Source. If you are just joining me and you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host for today. Usually I let the opening song play for the good 5 minutes that it's on, but I have a lineup that is so incredibly powerful that I just had to cut it short. The very first person, and I hope you are all tuning in, please, if you can't see this right now, we're on Facebook Live, we're at 96.1 FM, we're at 900 AM, we're streaming live on Facebook, streaming live on wordradio.com, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, all of it, right? The lineup today is a really great one. I will respond to your comments on Facebook as I see them, but I'm super excited about what we have going on today. Before I introduce our first guest, and I want you to stay tuned to this dial, I have to tell you about the free COVID-19 testing happening today. It started at 10 o'clock this morning at the Masjula, the Center for Human Excellence, at 7401 Limekin Pike, Philadelphia, PA 19138. This is with the realconciergemedicine.com. That is Dr. Ayla Stanford and group who are doing the testing throughout the city of Philadelphia. She's saying that if you are having coronavirus type symptoms or have been in contact with someone who has tested positive or suspected to be positive for the coronavirus in the past 14 days, please register at www.realconciergemedicine. That is REAL, and I will put it in the Facebook Live piece. REALCONCIERGE medicine.com. Symptoms include cough, sneeze, sore throat, shortness of breath, fever, loss of smell, loss of taste, diarrhea, or weakness. As many of you are aware, Dr. Ayla Stanford has been the medical correspondent on The Source. She is a pediatric surgeon who has taken it on with African-American doctors across the county and city of Philadelphia to help give people free COVID-19 testing. Black folks who are not able to get to the doctor, black folks who do not have medical insurance, black folks who would otherwise need a referral. This is a free test between the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium and some churches around Philadelphia and beyond. They're putting all of this together to make sure that it happens. So if you are having any symptoms, please go to the Masjula Center for Human Excellence, 7401 Limekin Pike, 19138. They are there until 4 p.m. today. All right, now that I have gotten that out of the way, I am super excited to talk to you with our first guest who cannot be on for very long, so I'm going to use the minutes that I have wisely. Susan L. Taylor, founder and CEO of the National Cares Mentoring Movement and editor-in-chief emerita of Essence Magazine. Susan Taylor, best-selling author of 4 books and editor of 8 others, is a fourth-generation entrepreneur who grew up in Harlem, New York, working in her father's clothing store. At 24, she founded her own cosmetics company, which led to the beauty editor's position at Essence, the publication she would go on to shape into a world-renowned brand with more than 8 million readers. It was that enterprising spirit wedded to a deep love for her community that led to the founding of the National Cares Mentoring Movement in 2005 as Essence Cares, with local affiliates in 58 cities. National Cares has recruited, trained, and deployed more than 150,000 mentors to school and youth-sponsored mentoring organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters, as well as its own culturally rooted academic and social transformational initiatives. A community mobilization movement, National Cares is the only organization dedicated to providing mentoring, healing, and wellness services on a national scale for Black children. Ms. Taylor is the recipient of more than a dozen honorary degrees and hundreds of awards, including the Phoenix Award, which is the highest honor given by the Congressional Black Caucus. A lifelong activist who has worked to ensure people across the globe from South Africa to those who struggled in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, Susan Taylor says that securing our vulnerable children is her highest calling and the big business of our nation and Black America today. Before I say hello to Susan Taylor, I have to let you know that I am one of the fortunate leaders across this country that was handpicked by Susan to start an affiliate right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And as I'm reading the bio, I started to get teary because Susan, she asked us to volunteer to work on behalf of our vulnerable children, Black children. But not only did she ask us to do this work, she made sure that we were built up. She made sure we were shored up. And so I have tears in my eyes because it is an honor to really be around someone this powerful. I cannot believe I'm crying. Oh my gosh. To be around someone this powerful who has opened the door so that we can feel okay. She has put us in front of Ayana Benson. We sat at the feet of, oh gosh, leaders. We've had conversations with the Congressional Black Caucus because of Susan Taylor. We've had invitations and great dialogue with Michael Eric Dyson because of Susan Taylor. We have just been able to continue to do this work, and we will continue to do this work until we fall over because of Susan Taylor. Because here is a leader that stood up in the gap to make sure that we were taking care of the most vulnerable of our children, Black and brown children that people don't really pay attention to. Susan, all right, I'm going to stop talking because now I'm crying. That was not the goal.
Oh, mine.
That was not the goal. How are you?
I am so happy and honored to be, just, that introduction reminds me of whose shoulders I'm standing on. And in the tradition of our ancestors, I stand. And in the tradition of Dr. Walter Lomax, who, as you know, the founder of WURD, is my hero. He just dedicated his life to, his resources to, and loved Black people beyond maybe what we deserved. An incredible man.
Yes, agreed. And so, Susan, I have you on today because today is Giving Tuesday. Can you explain that to the audience, please?
Well, it's a time when I think the world, this is happening all over the world, really push pause. And today we're pushing pause anyway because many of us are shuttered. And we're really thinking about those entities that are serving humanity and that need more support. And there was an incredible piece, Andrea, that was in the New York Times just a few days ago about how difficult it is for people of color, especially Black and brown folk, to raise money for the good work that we're doing in communities, and how organizations, philanthropies, tend to give to people who are in their networks. And very few of the philanthropic leaders have Black people in their personal networks. So this is our opportunity on our station to support our children and our efforts. And this is really what we have to grow to become. Because, many African Americans, we take care of our families and we'll take care of our faith communities, but we also have to take care of our vulnerable ones within the community. That's the tradition, and that's what today symbolizes for us. I'm so honored that you've invited me to just have that say on
Yes.
WURD.
Yes, ma'am. My apologies. I think I texted you way early this morning, and I was so thrilled that you would do this because what I am not sure, and maybe you are aware, in Philadelphia, you are like an icon. You're like that around the world. But when you come here, and I've seen it happen, when you walk in the streets of Philadelphia, and I'll say, Susan, don't go in that store by yourself. And you'll say, I can do this, Andre, it's okay. And then all these people start, the legacy that you have left, the voice that you have given us as a people is something that I'm not even sure if you have fully yet wrapped yourself around. And so tell people about the National Cares Mentoring Movement, why it is important to give back to this organization and who it serves.
Well, the National Cares Mentoring Movement, Andre, as you know, was founded as Essence Cares at the Essence Music Festival, right after Katrina. We just said that we looked at the statistics. We saw the children suffering. And then we looked at the national statistics and saw that 80% of Black children are born into poverty, and 86% of our children, even at the 11th and 12th grade, are underperforming in math and in reading. 70% of those who are incarcerated, regardless of race, are challenged readers. And those statistics go on and on and on. And we know what the number one cause of death is among our boys. It's homicide. And let me just pause there for a moment and say that people who have a way forward, who have jobs, who have education, aren't packing guns and knives or trying to hurt anybody out there. They're home after work, kicking back, having a beer, talking to their kids, getting up and going to work. So the issue right now is really the education of our young. And I'm not counting on the system to educate black people. It's never been willing to do that. And the barrier to our forward movement is really literacy, being able to read and being able to count. Now, we are brilliant people, and we need this training. So, today, the National Cares Mentoring Movement, we're focused on a host of things around the country, primarily the healing of the 400 years of woundedness. It's called epigenetics, and we've passed it from one generation to another, the brutality that we were subjected to. No, we don't even think about what happened on the other side of the Atlantic, the loss that our sisters and brothers all along the Atlantic coast in our motherland, what their losses were as the children were stolen over 250 and more years. The loss throughout the Caribbean, the brutality, where our people come from, just by happenstance, because those ships could have stopped anywhere from Brazil
Absolutely.
to Jamaica to St. Kitts to Puerto Rico to Charleston, South Carolina, and Virginia, and Baltimore. Let's be real. So here we are, the black survivors, as Bob Marley sang so brilliantly. And so what do we owe? This is what the National Cares Mentoring Movement is really about. We are a community galvanizing movement trying to get able black people involved in the support of and forward movement of our children who are sinking in poverty because they're in poverty schools. So that's our work through recruiting mentors, training them, and deploying them to where they're needed, and building our own programs that shift consciousness and show our young ones that they're not alone and that we're not going to let them fall.
And, I know all too well because I have been doing this work with you way before you contacted me in 2014 and continue, and we'll do it until the day we die as a team here in Philadelphia. And so how would people be able to reach out to give to the National Cares Mentoring Movement?
And let me just say, Andrea, that there's no giving that is too small. Anything from the heart is so appreciated. CaresMentoring.org. Go online, pardon me, to CaresMentoring.org. Look for the donate button and give. On Giving Tuesday, give from your heart.
Yes. Thank you so much, Susan. I know you are challenged for time. I'm going to have you back because I can see my Facebook Live crew. They are going nuts listening to you. You are such a voice and a healer for our people, and it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Susan L. Taylor, founder and CEO of the National Cares Mentoring Movement and editor-in-chief emerita of Essence Magazine. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you on Thursday when you have Anthony Hamilton talking to us.
Hey, we have to get people to come on.
All right, we'll do it. We'll show them from Facebook Live how to, yes, we'll show them how from Facebook Live. So Susan has been having these great conversations with the leaders around the country and inviting leaders to talk to us. And so this Thursday, it will be singer-songwriter Anthony Hamilton, and I believe Dr. Michael Eric Dyson will be the person who starts the conversation for us. Correct, Susan?
That's right. That's exactly right, along with an epidemiologist.
Yes.
8 o'clock. Be with us on Facebook Live, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sure Cecily Gay is watching, so we'll make sure that we get people to see that on Facebook Live on Thursday. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Have a great one, okay?
And my love to my community. God bless.
Yes.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Whew, let me tell you. I literally, before the show started, 10 minutes before the show started, 15 minutes actually, grounded myself. I sat back, I meditated, I prayed, I lit my candles, and I said to myself, I am not going to mess this I'm not going to mess this up. Let me tell you something. The first time that Susan L. Taylor reached out to me, I was in Washington, D.C., having some conversations with congressmen and senators because of public education. That has been my mantra. I have talked about it. My whole life will continue to talk about it. And so when I went to visit her and she told me that she wanted me to run the arm of the National Cares Mentoring Movement here, the affiliate here, it was a no-brainer because it's something that I've always done. But I have to tell you that it was because of doing the work that Susan has made sure that myself and other leaders sat at the feet of Harry Belafonte. She made sure that Iana Van Zandt could come into the room and have conversations with us. She made sure that we had world leaders sitting and talking to us. You know, we have our monthly mental affiliate calls. She now has every single Thursday that she has a leader from around the country calling in and encouraging us and inspiring us. We talked to Joyce Beatty from the Congressional Black Caucus. We talked, oh my goodness, I can't even begin to tell you. And all because we are here doing the work. So when you see me sit on this radio show and I tell you how important education is, when you see me talk about the Community College of Philadelphia and how it is a gateway to getting people out of poverty, when you see me lifting up what's going on in the Philadelphia School District and beyond, we tend to focus on the negative that's happening around us. And I'm saying both and, right? Let's talk about the issues, but then let's find the solutions. And so Susan L. Taylor is one that has been amazing in terms of her people. She is 70 plus years old and still doing this work. How are we going to be able to complain? How can we fix our mouths to say we can't do? And how can we even dare to point our fingers at anyone else before pointing it at ourselves to ask, how are we doing to support our own community? And so, you know, our next guest that's coming on is going to be the Reverend Dr. Alan Waller, another leader that I have been watching for some time. He and I have sat in places. I didn't even realize he knew my name until he was working on a funeral. He was presiding over a funeral of a Kappa Alpha Psi gentleman, Hillary Holloway. I'll never forget it. And he walked right up to me and said, Andrea, I have such and such going on in the church. And I just stood there and looked at him like, you know my name? And what he said to me was, I do know you because you spend so much time working with families. Anytime I see you, education is somewhere in the box. And so I'm telling you all these stories to let you know people watch what we do. People don't care what we say. We have a lot of talk. We have a lot of things that we can say to one another. And one of the things we don't do is, you know, really step in the gap. And people like Dr. Doreen Laurie, myself, there are those of us who are stepping out and doing the work, but we want less complaining and more people standing in the gap. We want more people to talk about not just what's going on in their families. Don't come out to do stuff in the community because it's just impacting your children and the people that are in your family. Step up. Step up, people. Don't do this because you want to have your name in lights. Until I started this radio show, the majority of you had no idea I even know who Susan L. Taylor was. The majority of you will never know a lot of the things that I know and do, because this is not about edifying and who I know. It is about the work. And so the work is so incredibly important. You know, Dr. Waller wrote a piece on the root, and I'm waiting for him to come on at 1:25. But I asked him to speak about this because as a leader, Pastor Waller reminds me of three things: his love for God, his love for his wife, and his love for his church. He loves his people, and it's one of the things that I consistently see coming from him as a leader. The reason why he has the largest church in the city is just because of that. His love for God, it is open and honest and just generous. His love for his wife is unlike anything I have ever seen. And his love for people, his heart is just so open. You know, we expect our leaders to carry around a walk of perfection. And one of the things Susan L. Taylor has always said to us is, when you see your leaders not doing something that makes sense to you, don't go out and talk about them. Come in and have a conversation with them. Right? And so it is always incumbent upon us to dialogue with folks that we know are in leadership. I ask the questions all the time. When people call here on the radio show, do you have your evidence? Have you spoken to such and such? What happened as a direct result? Because it is not just okay for us to just complain and moan and groan with no solutions intact. And so I have an article here that I wanted to read briefly before Dr. Waller comes on. And it is from Time magazine. It says, it came out May 1st, 2020, that why is COVID-19 striking men harder than women? When Rob Masters spent a week debilitatingly ill with COVID-19, lying barely lucid on a pull-out couch in his family's home in Larchmont, New York, his wife, Lori, cared for him every single day. But somehow, despite exposure to Rob's serious illness, Lori never tested positive for the virus. Master, an athletic 49-year-old with no underlying health problems, says he wants his story to be a public service announcement to other healthy men who may think they're at a low risk of contracting a serious case of coronavirus. As Master knows too well, the reality is just the opposite. Data from multiple countries suggest men are considerably more likely than women to suffer from a serious case of COVID-19 and to die from it. The question is why, and whether a quirk of female biology, genetics, or behavior could hold clues about how to treat COVID-19. I am going to take a small break, and then when we come back, the next voice you'll hear is Reverend Dr. Alan Waller. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Unword. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
It's Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Wurd Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. Want the latest in Word swag?
Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
Leadership.
Purpose.
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Wurd Radio.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and the Wurd Radio app.
live on forever. Love each other. We gotta live on forever. And love one another. Oh, yeah. Living and loving and sharing. Oh,
Welcome back to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Unword. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and this show started off with a bang. If you are just joining me, you missed a great conversation with Susan L. Taylor, who is the Essence's Chief Emerita of Essence Magazine, and she is the founder and CEO of the National Cares Mentoring Movement. We were talking about Giving Tuesday. She spoke about what was going on as it applies to our Black people, and so she asked that we give to caresmentoring.org and hit the donate button. That is CARES, CARESMENTORING.org, and hit the donate button. I don't have to tell you who Susan Taylor is, the editor-in-chief emerita of Essence Magazine before she started the National Cares Mentoring Movement, and really what she has done has been nothing short of amazing. When she started the Cares National Cares Mentoring Movement, and so I'm excited and ready to have a conversation with Dr. Alan Waller, and we're just waiting for him to call in. So if you all know where Dr. Waller is, call him for me, please, and tell him call Diva. We are ready for him. I did talk to him yesterday, so I know that he is coming on. I'm hoping he's okay. So as I'm waiting for Dr. Waller to come on, why I asked him to come and speak to us is simply this. He wrote a piece for The Root, called What You Don't Know Could Hurt Everyone. It'll take community resistance to fight COVID-19. And I'll read a short snippet of it for you so that you can understand why Dr. Waller is so important in this conversation. He said, last week I was diagnosed with COVID-19. But what is even more surprising, discovering my status as a result of the free testing event I hosted at my church. And he's talking about the one with the Black Doctors COVID Consortium. He is the pastor of Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, the largest church in Philadelphia. And so to help ease the fears of my members, I volunteered to be tested during last Wednesday's event, co-hosted by Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium at Enon and other churches around the city. Like many of America's other densely populated cities, Black people lead COVID-19 deaths in Philadelphia. We are dying at a rate of close to 40% or higher compared to the rest of the population across the city. And because the COVID-19 test is invasive, doctors have to stick a swab up your nose in order to get a sample. I wanted to model to others that, one, it wasn't as bad as it looks, and two, that it is truly on all of us to do all that we can to protect ourselves and each other from this deadly virus, including me. When I tested positive, my mind immediately flashed to all the other unsuspecting people across Philadelphia, people just like me, walking around carrying COVID-19, potentially putting others at risk. The irony is, from what I can tell, my fellow church officials and I did everything we could, short of conducting temperature checks and rapid testing every other time we walked through the church doors to protect ourselves and others from the virus. We stopped conducting in-person services weeks ago, moving it online. We limited the number of people who could access the sanctuary each Sunday to live stream service to just a handful, to include myself, a couple of members of our choir, the organist, and others. We moved our popular Bible studies to Zoom. So here's a pastor and leader of our city who took all the precautions, did everything he was asked to do and then some, right? All ministry activities, meetings, practices, and rehearsals were canceled, and we restricted the number of people who could participate in church-facilitated funerals to 50, socially distanced. One update is that until further notice, we are putting an end to church-based funerals and only conducting ceremonies graveside. And finally, we instituted a curbside pickup policy only for emergency food pickups and donations at Enon. And still, not only did I test positive for COVID-19, but 11 other members of the church did too, including my assistant. Unlike me, she is not asymptomatic, and as of this writing, was battling a fever and other symptoms. We have since learned that unbeknownst to any of us, one of our choir members contracted the virus weeks back and unknowingly brought it into the church as we gathered there to conduct virtual service. That person was also asymptomatic. But what sits with me most profoundly as I quarantine, far away from my beloved church family for their own good, for their own good, is that had I not taken the test, I would have potentially gone about my duties as pastor and unknowingly infected more people than I perhaps already have. People like the 4 Enon church members we have already lost due to COVID-19, folks that may they rest in peace. And so the other thing that Dr. Wallace says was, and I'm going to read this and then we'll talk to him, what also sits with me as I sit home for the good of others is just how sad and angry I feel watching black people in cities like New York City, Chicago, and Philadelphia clearly not taking the virus seriously. The Platte is the name of the popular park here in Philadelphia, referenced by Will Smith in his classic song Summertime. It's the party spot where guys go to drive their freshly cleaned cars and the ladies get to kick it with their girls. This past Sunday, the Platte was packed. The Plateau, packed. I mean, a parking lot full of people. Turns out someone cut the lock on the gate to the park even after city officials had shut it down. He or she chose, selfishly, to disregard their own life on top of the lives of innocent people by not practicing social distancing, all because they want to hang out with their friends. Dr. Reverend Alan E. Waller, are you on the line?
Hey, I am here. How are you?
I am so good. It is so good to talk to you. So let me just give them a formal introduction to you. Reverend Dr. Alan E. Waller is the senior pastor of the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is a highly sought-after revivalist, vocalist, and lecturer. And I agree with this. Dr. Waller is a true visionary of the church and the community who serves humanity far beyond the restraints of traditionalism. His partner in marriage and ministry is Dr. Ellen Jo Waller, the leader of Enon's women's ministry and a devoted mother to their 2 daughters, Ellen Morgan and Erica Lynn. Pastor Waller, I could read on and on and on, but the folks want to hear your voice. I want to thank you, first of all, for being willing to engage in me with this conversation that we're about to have, and 2, to just say that across the city, I see that City Council has hired people that they consider to be movers and shakers and influencers to put out public PSAs across the city. And all I thought to myself when I watched you on church on Sunday was, who else is better to do a PSA than Dr. Waller? And so thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking up the topic. I think it's a significant issue in our community right now, and it's going to be with us for a while. And the effects of this, even when social distancing is over, it has been suggested that we might be 5-10 years digging out of the financial hole that we're in. We have to talk about it, and we have to plan for it.
Yes. And so, Dr. Waller, as you were aware, because we had a brief conversation yesterday, this whole thing started with Dr. Ayla Stanford coming onto my radio show at the end of February, beginning of March.
Yes.
And I said to her then I was going to go visit my son in Texas. And she said, no, you're not. She told me, she said, you cannot, Andrea, if you cannot drive, don't do it. And I said, why? She said, because this thing is airborne. They didn't say yet it was airborne, but she felt that it was airborne because she saw all the people wearing masks, and it just didn't make sense to her logically, right? And so there were people calling into WURD radio at that point, Dr. Waller, and said, well, we don't believe it. If it doesn't come from a black person, we're not going to believe what they're saying because white people have always told us X, Y, and Z, and it's a conspiracy. Okay. I talked to Dr. Ayla Stanford, and she said to me, not a problem. I will be your medical correspondent. And so for weeks, Dr. Waller, she was coming on every Tuesday and Thursday, letting our people know what was happening. Maybe around the 4th week, she said to me on my radio show, Andrea, I just formed a consortium of black doctors, and we're going to have to go out and test our people because the disparities are real.
That's
Dr.
right.
Waller, tell everybody what Dr. Ayla Stanford is. Is she a regular physician?
No, she is, and the indictment is she shouldn't have to do this.
Yes.
She is a renowned pediatrician, surgical pediatrician. And she just is a sister that loves God, loves our people, and recognized the gap in testing and knowledge and took that up with others of her peers to start doing the testing. And so we celebrate her for that, because the indictment is our country is in no way prepared for the level of testing that is necessary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so speak to the people now about what happened at Enon, what processes you've put in place, and what has happened as a direct result.
All right. Well, the reality is we got infected, literally, and I wanted to know more about how we could help people. Well, let me back up. Before we knew about anyone being infected, I heard about what she was doing. Mm-hmm. And it is consistent with who we are at Enon to do this type of thing. We do the know your numbers. We are very health conscious. So it fits in our understanding of ministry to host this event. And at the time, people that were being tested either had been exposed and or was displaying symptoms. I was neither, according to what I thought. I literally had been social distancing. We had made the decisions at Enon to go to virtual services from the very beginning, back on March 14th. And so I was not in any way thinking that I would test positive. I did the same thing that I did 15 years ago when we were in the beginnings, or 20 years ago when we were in the beginnings of the AIDS epidemic, and the rapid test came out. One Sunday morning, I took the rapid test in front of the entire congregation, and we waited for 20 minutes by singing a hymn for my results to come back. We were doing that to do, target stigma and so forth. So in the same way that I did that on that Monday, I did not expect that I was positive. Then, of course, I came out positive as a result of the testing that went on at Enon. And from there, I found out that it's possible to be asymptomatic. We found out about others in the church that were positive. We have since had a decontamination unit come in and clear out both Enon East, and we're working on West now. We changed our policies of funerals to graveside, and now the preaching and worship services are done totally through a Zoom room and the use of Facebook Live. We are utilizing the Zoom rooms to both do counseling and keep up with the church. We have Bible study tonight at 7 o'clock on my Facebook Live Sunday morning, and we are continuing to feed. So you can get food from Enon every day from 10 to 12, and we are now beginning to focus on how we can do some economic empowerment with black business in our community, and you'll be hearing more about that to come, because we recognize we're in this for the long haul. We need to model social distancing and appropriate behavior, but then we also need to think about how we help each other financially, because when America has a cold, black community has the flu, and we are going to suffer financially as well. So that's kind of what's going on in our world right now. I'm still in my basement and doing everything from here. I am on day 14. However, I have not been retested yet. And one of the problems that we face is the lack of consistency around what should happen. So it makes sense to me that I need to be retested. Yes. I have been told by 4 different professionals. Some say I don't need to be retested. Some say I could shed up to 20 days. Because I am a public figure and because I have lived this out in front of everyone, I'm not going to come out until I am tested and can say that I am negative. But that speaks to how unprepared, uninformed, and behind we are on this issue, which further speaks to the need for Dr. Ayla Sanford.
I agree. So, Dr. Waller, we're going to take a quick commercial break. There will be no music, because I really want to get into the meat of this conversation, which is what can we do to protect our people, because they're still congregating and doing all kinds of things out here. So hold on tight for me 1 second, please. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms @on Word. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
In Pennsylvania, everyone counts, and everyone needs to participate in the census. Our population count determines our voice in government and how much federal funding our communities receive for health care, food assistance, education, transportation, housing, and more. So every infant and child, every foreign and U.S. citizen, everyone matters. For a stronger future, we all need to count. To learn more, go to pa.gov/census.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio.
Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. We have on the line with us Dr. Reverend Alan Waller, pastor of Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, who is having a conversation with us about what needs to happen in the African American community as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it is impacting our people. And so Dr. Waller and I left off on our conversations discussing the fact that he is now 14 days clear from this virus, but he wants to make sure to be retested before he emerges to his population, his congregation, which is the largest congregation in the city of Philadelphia. Dr. Waller, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there are reports from South Korea, and I've been talking about this now for about 2.5 weeks, that says people are retesting, people who had the virus and now retesting and getting a positive diagnosis again, and which is showing them that you can get the virus even after having it. And as Dr. Ayla has stated, there's so much about this virus that we still don't know. So can you explain to me the impetus behind your writing the article for The Root and what the plans are as a leader in the city, in your estimation?
Yeah, well, the reason that we did the article with The Root is because we need to have the conversation in our community, so I wanted to talk to our people. We have to let people know that there's still a lot we don't know. And the disease, you know, in the street, we would call it a punk because it is a virus that takes advantage of other comorbidities. So if you bring other issues to it, it treats you even worse. If you're overweight, if you're diabetic, if you have kidney disease, if you have other comorbidities, it can become lethal. So we cannot treat it like a common cold. And for those of us who it was not a significant event, we can't assume that because it was not deep for us that it won't be deep for someone else. I can't, and they're not clear. I've been told by 4 different professionals what my status should be. Number 1, I was told that after 3 days without a fever, I'm good to go. Then I was told that after 10 days, because I had no symptoms, I'm good to go. Then I was told that because I may have displayed one symptom, and that was conjunctivitis, and also I had a shortness of breath one Sunday morning, which I didn't necessarily pay much attention to. But people could see it online. I literally played the piano on Sunday morning a couple of weeks ago, and then ran from the piano to my pulpit, and I was winded. Right. And I'm pretty much in shape, so that was a little strange, but I didn't think much of it. So now, because of that, they suggest that maybe I need 14 days. And then I was told by the president of the National Medical Association, which is the African American Association of Medical Doctors, that shedding could take place with those who have had levels of symptoms for up to 20 days. So now I just tried to get tested, and I went through proper channels with my physician today, and they told me that I don't need to be tested. That does not make sense to me. But what she did admit is that it's because of lack of testing supply. Right. They just don't have enough supplies to test everybody like we should be tested, test in, test out. So I recognize that because of who I am, I can get tested somewhere. Right. But it should not be because of who I am. It should be because I'm a human being. And so a person who's not the pastor of the largest church should not run into the roadblock that I'm running into. So I'm keep running my mouth until we get to the place that we have adequate testing and recognize just how terrible the national response has been.
Yes.
You know, I know that we need to critique our local leadership, but I need us to also remember that most of our state and local leadership is hamstrung by the lack of proper response from the very beginning. And that doesn't suggest that we can't continue to critique our local leadership, but I think we need to remember that by the time the ball got to them, they were already behind.
Right. Absolutely. Agree. So, Pastor Waller, tell us now, the WURD listening audience, because you see them hanging out in the streets. They're huddled up with each other at grave sites. They are doing all sorts of things. What do you want to say to the masses under the sound of your voice right now?
Absolutely. We have to take this seriously if we ever want to get back to normal. So right now, we have to do the most around social distancing. It does mean if you are young, you can still get it. If you, no matter where you live, and we need to recognize that this thing impacts us at a larger, faster rate. We are dying, and all of us must take it seriously. I'm sure many of us now know someone who has had it, and possibly it was not a major event for them. But for the 10% of the people that it is a major event, you could kill your grandmother. Yes. You could kill your grandfather. And it's just that serious. And if we ever want to get it out of the community, we have to sacrifice right now for the community.
Agreed. And so what is your advice in terms of what they should do? Because when they keep saying it doesn't impact us, this is not happening to us, what should we say to these people?
That's just not true. We are dying at a higher rate. We are dying at twice the, so we make up, I think we make up 13% of American population, but we're dying at about 30%. So we are disproportionately dying from this virus. And it's our mothers and it's our fathers, it's our aunties. So you're out hanging out, and it may become a small event for you and feels like allergies, but you take it home or you go see your grandmother, and then she's left with a death sentence. And that's just how serious this is until we get our handle around it. This is America. We will figure it out, and one day it will be in our path. I mean, we've seen the flu. We've seen the Great Plague. We know we can handle it, but right in through here, we have to take the time to allow our best minds to work it out. Our president is blocking us from being able to do that, and he is part of the problem. hopefully we will see this and recognize the need to get rid of him in the next election.
Yes.
Because he is the big part of this problem.
Pastor Waller, let me ask you this. So when I had a conversation with you yesterday, I asked if you could come on because Dr. Ayla Stanford was coming on every week to talk to us. I asked if you would step in the gap at least one day a week for me on Tuesdays to update the people of Philadelphia. Are you still willing to do that for us, sir?
Absolutely.
Yes. In terms of the funding for small businesses, in terms of people finding food to eat, you know, where does Enon and where does the city stand, as you know, as a city leader, in terms of helping people? Because we see so many folks frustrated that say they need to go out and work, frustrated because they're tired of being home. That part I don't understand, because, you know, so many people are being infected. And we also see in the latest news reports that this virus has not gone away, Pastor Waller, so it's coming back. Right? They're saying that it'll be back here for the fall, and that if people continue to congregate now in all these states that we've been seeing, there are going to be more and more deaths by June 3rd. So what advice do you have for the folks who consistently think that this is much ado about nothing, sir?
Number one, this is real, and we have to pay attention to it. Number two, you have to continue to press the system to work. You know, if you are a business owner, it's difficult, but you have to go through the processes to go after the CARES money. You have to stay vigilant. You have to stay on the phone. You have to keep working the process. I think those of us who give leadership to churches and larger organizations, we're going to have to pull together our collective resources and begin targeting how we support Black businesses. What you will be hearing from us at Enon is each week we are going to begin to talk about different businesses that we can be supportive of. And I'm just taking a page out of Leon Sullivan's book and say, let's do some selective patronage. And everybody knows that the Bynums are going to do something this week for Mother's Day. Let's send some money over to the Bynums, and let's be supportive. And then next week, let's look at other Black-run businesses that we can be supportive, because some businesses are not going to survive.
Yes. Agreed.
And we need to recognize that for real. Some people are not going to come out of this okay.
I have to ask you this question before we bid you adieu until next Tuesday. There was a conversation across Philadelphia with some Black churches that said that they needed to continue to have their services with their people inside the churches. And I was most impressed by the fact that you had a 10,000 plus seat that was just empty, right? Leading the way for people. Is there a place, and I'm just asking you this, is there a place where all pastors come together to talk about this? And how do you manage when some of your brethren say, we're going to keep having church because we have to have faith in God?
Well, I think, I do know that group of people, I wouldn't even call it a group. It was a very small group. That is not the thinking of most of the pastors in the city of Philadelphia. Most of the pastors in the city of Philadelphia acted very responsibly from the very beginning. And so I don't personally, I know one pastor who was intent on having worship, and he changed his mind before he actually did it. So you need to acknowledge that most pastors have been responsible around that. There is a collective conversation going on with pastors, and most of it now is thinking not as much about how we worship together, but how we serve the community. Because so many people who need to eat, and there are so many people who need resources and help. That's what we're looking forward to being helpful with. We do serve food, well, not serve food. We have a pack of non-perishable food items every day, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 12. And we are now in the thousands of people that have been served because, you know, people need help. And there are many churches that are doing that. I think it's time for us now to look at how we can do these things together and how we can begin to think about some collective cooperative economics, and that's sort of the next phase of this.
Thank you. Reverend Dr. Alan E. Waller is a senior pastor of Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Waller, thank you so much for talking to us. We look forward to speaking with you next Tuesday as you give us more updates on what we can do to keep the city and our people incredibly safe. You have a good afternoon, sir, and be well.
I appreciate you. God bless.
All right, bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Unword. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Legal information, black history, hip-hop, and much more. It's the Radio Courtroom with attorney Michael Cord every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Wurd Radio app.
PHL, this is Councilwoman Sherelle Parker. Right now, the best way to show brotherly love and sisterly affection is by keeping your social distance. If you and I keep our social distance from each other 6 feet apart at all times, it lessens the chance I can spread the coronavirus to you or that you'll spread it to me. We must also wear masks and cover our faces, but it doesn't replace 6 feet though. Let's keep our social distance to stop the spread. Text COVID PHL to 888-777 for updates. Thank you.
Have you received your stimulus check yet? Hi, this is Philadelphia Congressman Brendan Boyle. I wanted to let you know that Congress recently passed legislation to give financial relief to many who are now affected by the coronavirus crisis. These payments are meant to help you get through these tough times. So to get information on how to get your payment and to receive my newsletter with updates, please go to boyle.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
This is Wurd Radio.
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Wurd Radio.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and the Wurd Radio app.
Trashman didn't get my trash today. Oh, why? Because they want more pay. Buses on strike wanna raise and fare so they can help pollute the air. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people's hands around. Go underground, young man. People make the world go round. Wall Street losing dough on every share. They're blaming it on longer hair. Big men smoking in their easy chair on a fat cigar without a care. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people's hands around. Go underground, young man. People make the world go round.
Welcome back to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. So I am getting text messages from people who saying that they can't see the Facebook Live video, and I can also see that Susan L. Taylor tried to share it, and it showed up that the content wasn't available. And so I want to make sure someone send me a text or do something to let me know if you can see it again, please, because folks want to share. And we just had a great conversation with Dr. Alan Waller, Reverend Dr. Alan Waller from Enon Tabernacle Church, who has just stated that he will be coming on to The Source every Tuesday to give us an update about what's going on in the community so we can save our people who are insistent on being out in these Wakandan streets. And speaking of Wakandan streets, we have now on the line with us Dr. Doreen Laurie, motivator, community change agent, scholar, and activist. Dr. Laurie is currently the director of the Pan-African Studies program at Arcadia University in Glenside, Pennsylvania, and an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. During her tenure at Arcadia, she has developed the university's first African-American Studies curriculum and has developed the university's first minor in Pan-African Studies. Dr. Laurie took students for a week-long culture research trip to South Africa in 2015 and designed a specialized curriculum called Identity, Politics, and Music in Cape Town, South Africa. The course explored how music contributes to politics and identity formation by exploring the historical, political, and identity dynamics of several musical genres that have strong historical trajectories in Cape Town in particular. Dr. Laurie is the 2010 recipient of the prestigious Lindback Foundation Award for Distinguished Teaching and is the first African American to receive the award at Arcadia University. Lord. Dr. Laurie, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, my sister?
Okay, so I am, people are saying they can't see the live Facebook feed. I'm getting text messages. Someone just texted me and said they still can't see it. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I know Troy can hear me, and we'll get Mike to work on it because this is a fascinating lineup, and I really didn't want people to miss what was going on here. So you heard me talking to Dr. Waller, correct?
Yes, what happened is all of a sudden the Facebook said something about private.
Really?
Yeah, it went through some kind of private thing, and then boom, I saw you for a moment, and then it went away again.
Okay, so I know they're listening, so I'm hoping that they'll figure it out. Because when I looked at Susan's page, it said the same thing. This person has made it private, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but they'll figure it out. It's the technology. They'll figure it out. I'm praying because I can still see myself going live from where I am sitting, but I guess you guys can't see it, so I'm not really sure what's happening there. Hopefully they'll rectify it eventually. The reason why you and I are having this conversation today, Dr. Waller came on, talked about testing positive, that he was asymptomatic, and that he realized that even with all the social distancing and stuff that's been going on, that there's just no way. It's hard to not get this disease. You witnessed something while you were out in Philadelphia this past week that made me ask you to come on here. What happened, Dr. Laurie?
Well, a couple of things, and I actually want to talk about another piece too, if you allow me, when it comes to college students. But it just blew. Okay, I've been staying in, doing what I'm supposed to do, doing my walk, and the first walk I did, I was confronted by two women who had no mask on, and I asked them. I said, "Well, why aren't you wearing your mask?" I had the mask on and the gloves, and they proceeded to lecture me and tell me that they didn't really need it when they're out, yada, yada, yada. So I went around the track again, and they again wanted to engage me in conversation and wanted to make sure I had mailed in my ballot. I said, "Sweetheart, right now," I said, "I'm more concerned standing here talking to you with no mask on than my mail-in ballot." So I left the track. I then proceeded to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I get to come out for a minute. Let me go to Dunkin' Donuts. All I can say is the two Dunkin' Donuts that I have tried to give them my business, they have literally had no gloves on and thought that there was no problem that they did not have gloves on.
Okay.
And the young lady yesterday blew my mind, and I said, "Well, then you're just going to have to give me my money back." And they were like, "Well, we're getting our gloves on." I mean, I could not believe the nonchalant behavior of serving me my food and not having the proper equipment on. And the more I tell this to people, the more they're coming back saying it's happening to me as well.
So what are they saying? Why are they saying, Doc, that they don't need their gloves, despite everything that we've seen in the news?
And let me say this. I had the great honor this morning. I have a good friend, which we all know, Sonia Sanchez. Sonia called me at 9:30 this morning. We talked to 11:30. And in that conversation, we talked about the level of selfishness, we call it being very selfish. And that we're living in a country right now that people are so selfish and have no concept of the whole we thing. I mean, look at all these different folks who are protesting. You know, they're saying their rights are being infringed upon. And I'm like, well, what about my right to make sure I don't get what you have because you don't think it's important enough to cover up?
Right.
And I love what Pastor Waller was saying. You know, it is very much endemic of when we went through the AIDS process, AIDS epidemic, and how sexual behaviors had to be wrap it up. That was the bottom line. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Yep. Right.
And people didn't want to do that. And so I'm looking at these gatherings of people I see. I'm walking through my neighborhood seeing young people going to play basketball, and I don't want to be the mass police this summer. It's going to be a rocky summer, Andrea.
Oh, I know.
There are going to be some disturbances. People are going to be arguing with one another because people don't see the value in putting on that mask.
Okay. So, Dr. Lori, so I'm now getting text messages that people can see the thing, but they can't see the comments. So they'll keep working on it from WURD's side, Shaquilla, and group. Just make sure, Kathy, I know you're watching too, just kind of make sure that people can see it for me. Please share it so that they can see, because these conversations are very important. And the one I'm having now with Dr. Lori, we talked about it at length. So this morning, my husband and I had to go pick up a piece for the Toyota dealership for my car. And it was so interesting because I'm watching my husband, who has not been outside of the house very often at all. And I said to him, make sure that when you get out the car, put on the gloves, right? And whatever you do with your credit card, I handed him a wipe, and I said, make sure you wipe the credit card off. And before you get back in the car, take the gloves off, come back in, wipe your hands. Like, he had to go through this whole process. And I could see him kind of sort of getting flustered with me because he's not been out that often, but we can cross-contaminate each other so quickly. And I don't think folks realize that stuff, that virus sits on every single thing, and we cannot take it for granted. And for someone like him who was asthmatic, I was flustered because I was like, dude.
and I too am asthmatic, okay?
Yes.
And so it is this. And he is so right. And you observed something in him that when I had to go out, the one time I went to the grocery store with my daughter and granddaughter, I said, you'll never get me back in the store. It was so frustrating. I could not breathe in the mask because of the asthma. I had to get a little indignant with a couple of folks. They were right up on top of me. And again, getting in the car, wiping everything down, and getting home, putting everything on the back porch. And then I said, this is what you have to do. But at the same time, the level of anguish, and that's the only way I can say it, anguish that I had, took my clothes off, had to do all of that, wash them.
Yes.
I said, oh, it's not worth it. It is not worth going out. And part of one of my ways in life, as I've done, is one of the jobs I've had in life, really not a job, because when you're trained in counseling, you're going to always be a counselor and a social worker, is talking with my students on and doing these classes with my students, finishing the semester. And I'm actually saying to parents of high school students and college students, I deal with the college students, I am seeing such anguish in these young people. They don't know how to handle it. I've got students that made decisions not to fly back home to Texas, California, Florida. They didn't want to go home to parents, grandparents, who again had underlying conditions. They're isolated here from family, from friends in a classroom. And then I'm being told by other universities and other students that my granddaughter told me. She said, I have not seen one of my professors since I left the college.
Yes. So that's the other piece that I wanted to talk to you, because there was an article that came out recently, although I have been having the conversation for weeks now with a professor from Drexel University that said to me, he said, Andrea, these universities are going to start, colleges are going to start shutting their doors because people are asking for their monies. And he intimated to me back then that they were getting sued by students, and it came out in the news today. It says, unimpressed by online classes, students at 26 schools, including Drexel, files lawsuits. Students at 26 U.S. universities, including Drexel and the University of Pennsylvania, are filing lawsuits against their schools demanding partial refunds on tuition and campus fees, saying they're not getting the caliber of education they were promised. Child. Not satisfied with online classes, a student at Drexel University sued the school and wants his money back. He says he wants to have at least 40% of his tuition back, right? So it also says that the class action lawsuits demanding tuition refunds have been filed against the 26 colleges. Granger Rickenbacker, a freshman who filed a class action lawsuit against Drexel, said the online classes he has been taking are poor substitutes for classroom learning. You just feel a little bit diminished, said Rickenbacker, 21 of Charleston, South Carolina. It's just not the same experiences I would be getting if I was on campus. And so they're saying that, you know, that some of the teachers aren't showing up. They're saying that all sorts of different things are happening, and they're not feeling like, and especially places like Drexel and the University of Pennsylvania, where they're making, you know, where they're doing $50,000, $60,000 a year for, you know, tuition. These students and their families are indignant. So what are you seeing from your side, Dr. Lori?
Well, I have to give Arcadia credit, and not because I worked there, because they know when they screw up, I always let them know they screw up. But I have to give credit for with Arcadia, and I know because we're a smaller college, that we were told very upfront that, A, you don't pile on work to make up for work. Because that's what a lot of schools are doing. They're literally throwing stuff up there on whatever type of mechanism, blackboard or canvas, giving students these long assignments as if that's somehow going to make up for them not being one-on-one. They're not utilizing the technology. Did I struggle? Yes. Guess who helped me? The students.
Right.
So that I made sure I showed them my vulnerability. You know, I would say, all right, you got to help me, you know, make sure we do this. We're going to show a movie. I did Netflix parties, okay? So I made it so that as much interaction as I could have with them, I did. I set up one-on-one meetings, only with one or two of them, and we would meet or, you know, be in Zoom. They've got to see us. They've got to see us. Did they see me looking good every day? No, because they didn't look good every day. Were there days that I cried? They said, what's wrong with that? I said, a rough-ass day today, isn't it? The weather's bad, and I didn't care about class. We talked, and we talked about the struggle. People do not realize we have students that are living in cars. We have students that could not go home to parents or whomever in the household because they may not be out at home. Now, all of a sudden, they've got to go to this environment at home where they're not even welcome. And they're trying to, no, it's really a struggle. And parents, I don't think, are listening because, yes, the graduation thing, they're sad, yes. But just getting through their senior finals, their capstone, parents have got, or whomever is working with these young folks when they go home, or before they go home, they've got to understand the level of anguish, and that's the word I'm using, that they're going through and try and help them. I'm telling you, it has been a situation of not just teaching, it's been a situation of listening, engaging them in their anguish, and trying at the same time to help them. And I got to give Arcadia that credit. They worked hard with even changing policies around grades I mean, that's a big deal, you know, to say, listen, the student is going to have more say-so. If they get a grade, we're going to be able to do some things with them that will help them. So there has got to be a way that higher ed has got to make sure they're working with these young people and not against them.
Dr. Lori, Lord, I don't know. What are we going to do? I think people seem to think that when it gets to be summertime outside or it's getting a little bit warmer that that life is going to just dramatically change. And we're seeing reports everywhere. They're talking about our food supply diminishing. They're talking about the fact that this virus, not only is it not going away, they're now seeing that children who had COVID-19 are now developing something else that's stopping their hearts and making them very, very sick, and they're losing their breath and ended up back in the hospital. This virus is so unknown and so deadly, and yet we still continue to try and act like it's much ado about nothing. When you talk to those two women on the track, what did they say to you when you told them that, you know, they should have their gloves on?
They proceeded to tell me, and we were the same age. I was a little younger, but because I asked them, I said, may I ask how old you are? I said, because I think we're the same age. And they say, oh, no, we couldn't be. No, I'm 72, one was 77, one was 75. And I looked at them, I said, lady, you really need to be more careful. And they were like, well, all we're doing is walking, and this is how they saying it. All we're doing is walking across the street. They lived across the street, and we're walking back. I think people, again, this nonchalant, cavalier way of thinking, and I love what Sonia said this morning. We are a country that has never experienced tragedy like a war. We're wondering why London, Rome, Italy, all these other places seem to be working through it, because we've never, except for 9/11, we've never had a hard time where it's been asked for people, the United States people, to have to now become very involved in their own survival.
Right.
We don't know how to be involved in our own survival, because as we see by this protesting, it is our right to be outside. It is our right to go get a tattoo, to get our hair done, our nails done. It is not a daggone right. It is selfishness. And we are a country that has never had to be selfish.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Lori, it's going to be interesting. On Thursday, I have people calling in with Mal, one doctor from Jamaica, who's going to talk about that from the lens of that part of the diaspora. And then we're going to talk about the Native Americans who are really struggling. I want to have you come back on, and maybe on Thursday, to continue to dissect this, because I think ignorance is going to kill a whole swath load of us. You hear what I'm telling you? And it's not just black folks, it's white folks, it's all kinds of people who think that because they can't see it or feel it, that it's much ado about nothing, and all we want to do is slow them down from keep having their jobs, and we're trying to destroy the economy. The entire world was shutting down. What makes us so selfish to think that that people are just picking on us? In fact, we started this too late. We started taking it seriously too late, which means we're going to have to take some more time and more steps to get to where we need to. I can't thank you enough for calling in, but I want you to call back on Thursday. So I'll have Brianna reach out to you so that we can tie in the other pieces of the diaspora around why are we so stiff-necked about this when we see our family members are dying by the thousands. 40% of African Americans, people that have died in the city, are African Americans. That's a large number, and I don't think folks are really paying attention to that. I also would like you to find out from those two Dunkin' Donuts. Ask them what their policy is for me, so we can talk about that on Thursday, because if their people are not wearing gloves and masks, they're cross-contaminating folks who are coming to get the food, which makes absolutely no sense, right? So can you do all of that for me, please?
I did, and I've already called the corporate office and made sure I gave them the store numbers of the stores.
Okay, good. So then I'll wait to hear back from you on Thursday on what that should look like. So thank you so much, Dr. Lori. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thanks for doing this, Andrea. It's so needed in our community.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Unword. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
West Philadelphia Promise Neighborhood Community Meal Locations for Seniors, West Philly Senior Community Center, 1061 North 41st Street. Seniors only. Call 215-386-0377 for days and times and to reserve your meal. Fireside Adult Center, 5331 Haverford Avenue, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Call ahead, grab and go lunch for seniors. For a full listing of meal sites, go to phillyfoodfinder.org. For more information for the West Philadelphia Promise Neighborhood offerings, please go to wordradio.com and click on the WPPN banner ad for more information.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Wurd Radio.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and the Wurd Radio app.
As around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving, and the rosebuds know to bloom in early May. Just as hate knows love's the cure, you can rest your mind assured that I'll be loving you always. 'Cause now can't reveal the mystery of tomorrow, but in passing we'll grow older every day. Just as all that's born is new, you know what I say is true, that I'll be loving you always. Until the rainbow burns the star out in the sky. Always. Until the ocean covers every mountain high. Always. Until the dolphin flies and perish in the sea. Always. Did you know that true love asks for nothing? Her acceptance is the way we pay. Did you know that life is giving love a guarantee to last through forever in another day? Just as time knew to move on since the beginning, and the seasons know exactly when to change. Just as kindness knows no shame, know through all your joy and pain, that I'll be loving you always. As the day I know I'm living by tomorrow, but make me the past, but that I mustn't fear. For I'll know deep in my mind the love of me I left behind. 'Cause I'll be loving you always. Until the day is night and night becomes a day. Always. Until the trees and seas just stop.
Welcome back to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. To those of you who have been texting and calling and sending messages, inbox on Facebook, I am